And we're back on My Mayor, the highest rated show about St. Petersburg candidates for mayor in the history of the world, I think. As we've been talking about many issues in St. Pete's, affordable housing keeps coming up as one of the top ones, if not the top one. And so we're going to do one more guest host offsite, really dig into affordable housing. And there's no one who knows more about it than the leader of our local Habitat for Humanity chapter, Mike Sutton. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Joe, thanks for having me.
You started in 2014?
Correct.
And amazing accomplishments. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I think somewhere around 6 billion houses, 7 billion houses?
Somewhere around there. Got to round out a little bit. But I took this role in 2014, and the day I started, we celebrated the 280th home that we had completed in the community. And now we've built more than 710 homes. The community continues to see this need for affordable home ownership. And as long as they continue to throw that support behind Habitat, we feel like we can be one piece of that puzzle to ensuring that everyone has a safe and affordable place to live.
Great. And you've been very creative. Habitat's been very creative in moving into different types of housing. You're buying larger tracts of land and building communities, looking at potentially getting into multi-family structures and things like that. So with you stretching and seeing all the ways that you can help the community, what are you hoping to learn from our candidates about how they can support you in that?
I think at the end of the day, we want to hear more from them about how we can ensure that St. Petersburg remains a place that all people can live. We have to find a way to provide affordable home ownership, to keep workers here, to be able to keep teachers and people that work in the police department and the fire department. How do we keep them in our community? So look forward to hearing from them about that. I think there's also a lot of red tape and bureaucracy that goes into affordable home ownership. And so we'll probably touch on that a little bit today as well.
That's great. Well, I appreciate you bringing your insight and expertise, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thanks for having me. Robert, thank you so much for being with us today to talk a little bit about my favorite topic, affordable housing. We appreciate you coming out and spending some time with us here in Midtown in a house that Habitat recently completed. The new homeowner will be moving in a couple of weeks. So really excited to have you here, and thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all the work you do.
Thanks. How's everything on the campaign trail?
Things are great, just down the home stretch here, hoping to finish strong. I'm feeling good. We're knocking doors, we're calling people, we're bothering you on TV and on your social media. So we're kind of doing everything we can down the stretch.
Just a couple more weeks, right?
3 weeks.
Cool. Well, let's jump right into it. We've obviously prepared you with a couple questions that we wanted to talk to you about. So let's talk first about zoning. If you could change one thing within the city of St. Petersburg zoning code to increase the supply of affordable home ownership, what would it be and why?
So that's a great question, especially for where we're at right now. We're in Melrose Mercy neighborhood. This is my old neighborhood. I used to live less than 2 blocks from here. And when we talk about zoning changes, kind of to allow increased density, which is what my answer is going to be, it sounds scary to a lot of people, changes, allowing apartments potentially in neighborhoods. This is something that sounds really radical to a lot of people and makes them uncomfortable. I mean, myself included, when you hear kind of the sticker shock of hearing, you're going to allow this. But then look at a neighborhood like this. My old home 2 blocks away was actually a 4-unit apartment complex that I renovated myself. I lived in 1 unit and I rented out the rest. Next door to that was a single family home. Next door to that was a duplex, then another duplex, then a single family home, then another duplex. So really you have had for years, we allowed this mixed density zoning throughout our neighborhoods. And it only was in the 1970s where we changed that over. And traditionally, all of our neighborhoods had duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes allowed within them. So if I could push for one change, it'd be to allow those densities to resume again, because as we know, we're a built out area and we need more unit density.
Yeah, definitely running out of land for sure. So both for-profit and not-for-profit housing developers alike struggle with red tape and permitting times. And as I said with Ken, that struggle is real. I can tell you specifically. What specific steps would you take to decrease this friction?
So I know this firsthand. Like I said, I'm in the renovation trade. and I've had to deal with lengthy permit wait times. Took me over 6 months to get a roof permit earlier this year, late last year, which was, my frustration was compounded when I'd go into MSC and I'd see my face on the wall, I kept getting denied for a permit. But what we need to do is we need to become more user-friendly. And I don't think that anybody, to be very clear, anybody who works for the city in permitting and zoning, I think everybody does a great job. The problem is they're overworked and they have not enough resources to make it happen. But when we look at permitting, it's very similar to policing and some other governmental organizations and departments where you get more than dollar for dollar return for every dollar you put into it. If we have a more streamlined zoning process and a more streamlined permitting process, what we can do is we can get buildings built quicker, we can get people in homes who need them, and then we can start to also get property taxes. So essentially we get income in perpetuity if we get these homes built. So it pays itself back if we streamline the process. What I'd like to do is give more resources, hire more employees, get state-of-the-art, top-of-the-line software, but also we need to have a cultural change where everybody in City Hall, everybody in municipal services always starts at yes, and we only pivot to no if proven otherwise. We should never start at no, this can't happen. We should always try and work with the customer or the permit applicant because the customer's always right?
Awesome, thanks. So according to the Tampa Bay Regional Competitive Report, locally there's almost a 40% gap in rates of homeownership between white households and households of color. How will you reduce this racial homeownership disparity in households of color?
So that's a great question. And you look around and you don't often know who's a renter and who's not. But what we need to do is we need to make sure that people have equity. I've said it before, I'll say it again. The old adage, a rising tide lifts all boats, is not always true. There's a lot of people drowning in that rising tide. We need to make sure that everybody has a place on the boat to achieve equity with the growth of St. Pete. A lot of the people who are being priced out are the people who have made our city great, who work so hard, who work in the service industry, who are nurses, who are helping out frontline workers throughout this pandemic. And we need to make sure that people are able to achieve the American dream. That being said, it's hard, really hard, to build affordable housing. Habitat's done it well, but it's very difficult to build affordable housing just with the cost of land, labor, and materials. There's hard costs associated that you just cannot get around. And that's why I've pushed for a transition into a city-backed mortgage program, because a lot of times you can still really gain some value by purchasing older housing stock. Some of that stuff like the 1970s condos, and there's still a number of condos to be bought in our city for between $50,000 and $125,000. The problem with, say, an $100,000 condo is those who can afford a $100,000 condo don't want to live in it, and those who want to live in a $100,000 condo can't afford to buy it. So what we need to do is we need to give incentives and also pay for these condos so that people can then pay them back for low-interest mortgages. And what that'll do is every dollar we put into the affordable housing program will never leave it because these mortgages will have to be repaid. But hopefully we can achieve a snowball effect where we have true home ownership and equity for those in the 50% and less AMI class, because these older condos, condo fees are maybe $250, $280 a month, but those include water, sewer, trash. So you'd have your electric bill, your property tax, which would be less than $1,000 a year or $100 a month, and then your cost of mortgage. You could have a payment out the door easily less than $750 a month for ownership. So it really can give people a chance to get some equity in their pockets.
Yeah, and through ownership, that's the best way to build equity in life. So, this next question is really perfect timing, as St. Petersburg is set to receive $45 million in American Rescue Plan funding. During recent community outreach sessions, residents listed affordable housing as the #1 priority of how those dollars should be spent. The current administration has put forth a plan to utilize $15 million of the funding for affordable housing. Do you feel this level of funding is appropriate? And are there any specific projects or initiatives where your administration would utilize these funds?
So that sounds like a simple question, but there's a lot to unpack from what you just said. First of all, affordable housing, extremely important. But at those meetings, as the Times covered, we said It's going to be completely unbiased. We want to hear from the people. And then we said, we don't need money here, put it over there. We kind of led with where we wanted it to go. Affordable housing, I'm fine with funding that. I pushed for infrastructure to be more heavily funded because we've said we're 800 years behind in our funding for bridges, 500 for seawalls and 400 for sidewalks. Yet we said at those meetings, we did not have a funding problem with infrastructure. So we talk out of both sides of our mouth all the time, but welcome to politics. So as far as affordable housing, yes, it's a need, but I want to make sure that where that goes under affordable housing is the smartest, highest, and best usage of our funds. I don't want to just see the money burned on fire and just given away. I want to see it done smartly, and that's why I want to see money put towards city-backed mortgages, organizations like Habitat. We need to really double down and sharpen our pencils because, as we've seen, we're getting late in the building cycle here, and really land prices are crazy. Stuff like the lot disposition program. We keep giving away lots to people who aren't performing, and then we don't have houses on the street, and we wonder why. We need to make sure we go with success. It's like baseball. It's like sports. You stick with a winner, and we need to make sure that all the dollars we put in are going towards meaningful uses, not just being burned up on waste.
Awesome. So if elected, what are you going to do to ensure that everyone in St. Petersburg has the opportunity to live in a safe, decent, and affordable home?
So there's a number of things, again, from that. Sounds like a simple question. First of all, safety. When I lived 2 blocks away from here, I was good friends with all my neighbors, and they'd always say, why don't the police come over here? Why do they not care about us? Do they not care about our neighborhood? A lot of times it can feel like that. We need to make sure also that we have policing in every neighborhood. The pendulum goes both ways. People say, oh, gee, there's too much policing. They say the police don't care about us. We need to find a good balance where we have police in every neighborhood so that you can have community policing where the officers know the players, they know the terrain, they know the homes, they know what's going on. And then also that people feel safe, because in no neighborhood in our city should anyone ever feel unsafe. And frankly, this neighborhood is a neighborhood that's really suffered. I would hear gunshots often, and we need to make sure that we keep everyone safe in every neighborhood. But also, in terms of home ownership, like I said, city-backed mortgage program, why wouldn't we do something like that? Instead of giving away money as our sole source of affordable housing to developers, why not keep it in the system? It benefits taxpayers, it benefits citizens, and if we get some people to achieve home ownership and we get them off of social services, of course that benefits us in the long run too. It's just good business sense. And at the end of the day, that's kind of what a municipal government is it is a company where the mayor is the CEO and the city council is the board of directors and all the citizens are the shareholders. So I want to provide some shareholder value, hopefully, as the new executive in town.
Awesome. Well, thank you for your attention towards affordable home ownership and affordable housing today. We really appreciate you taking time to be with us, Robert, and good luck on the campaign trail. We really appreciate you taking some time today.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all you do, but also thank you for finishing this house before I got here.
No problem. Awesome.